Hey guys, Leah and Michelle, Resistance Chicks. It is April 5th, 2017. It's a Wednesday. There was a chemical attack, a lot of you know, in Syria. Was it Assad? Was it the rebels? Was it fake? Was it a false flag? We are going to try to uncover that a little bit for you.
Yeah, there's not a lot to go on. I think what concerns me is the very first thing.
Assad.
Everybody, New York Times,
taking him out.
Even Nikki Haley, UN meeting together. There's a lot of questions, and we want to bring you these, and I want you to think, because we know that we don't trust the mainstream media, which is why you're here today,
right,
which is why you're on YouTube, okay? But you want to know the facts. It's really hard to get the facts, okay? We've tried to grab a couple things that make our brains go, eh. Mm-hmm. I personally do not think this is Assad.
But we're going to give you the facts from all sides, and you can make up your own mind.
Exactly. And I'm going to start with Gerardo Rivera. I don't always agree with him. Every once in a while, a clock is right twice a day, right?
Exactly.
This video
a broken clock.
So stomach churning, it's so deeply unsettling, so upsetting to see the absolute inhumanity of these attacks. But you played the Sean Spicer bite, and I'm glad you did, because both the White House press secretary and the President of the United States indicated just over the last couple of days that maybe Assad stays, that maybe we can deal with Assad, that maybe what absolutely destabilized the entire region was the Arab Spring and our drive to get these despotic leaders out, unleashing the tumult within these countries, Libya, Syria, you know, along with the invasion of Iraq in 2003. But when you see Spicer and you see, more importantly, the President of the United States indicating to Syria that maybe we can deal with Assad, to have Assad then 2 or 3 days later launch a poison gas attack on his own people, killing these children, I don't know, to me, I have deep misgivings that this story doesn't make sense. What I mean is, why would Assad, now that he has the indication of international acceptance, finally, after 6 bloody years, 500,000 dead, 5 million displaced.
You're saying you don't think he did this?
I'm saying that what I would like the President of the United States to say is, damn it, I want the Syrian government right now. We're landing at Damascus airport at 12 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. We want to see the scene. And you can bring the Russians in if you want to. We want to go to the scene of this horrible crime against humanity. I want to see the artillery shells that carried this sarin gas, if that's what it is. I want to find out the trajectory. I want to review the radar. I want to know what aircraft were in the air. I want to know exactly what happened. If this was an accident, as Assad is saying, or if this was the rebels who did it to make Assad look bad, I want to know about it, because if it is Assad, and if Assad has launched this poison gas attack just days after the President of the United States said, you know, maybe we can do business with you, then he is not only an international war criminal, I want him killed. I want him killed. I want an assassin to take him out.
And I agree with that, and it feels very much like the whole Saddam Hussein. Mm-hmm. What we have to recognize is, first and foremost, if these are real victims, and I'm not saying that they're not, but I do not trust ISIS, and I do not trust people in Syria right now. Why are there so many refugees? Because there's so many lies. We know that Infowars is calling it a false flag. They have a video here where
before, like Groundhog Day.
Yeah, we sure have.
They would have a red line.
I'm going to go back to
pictures and a couple of tweets. How about this? Another.
Hang on.
Now, guys, let's roll these videos now.
This is a video that came out in 2013 when the first chemicals were said to have been used on people. And there's a young boy sitting in an ambulance, and they literally they
pose him.
They pose him. You do not. Here's the thing: if a 2 or 3 or 4-year-old
is really injured, you don't just set them in a chair.
You don't prop them for a photo.
No.
Let's roll the Aleppo boy video. We'll just roll that as B-roll, and me and Leanne will talk over it. Let's go to the Aleppo boy video. Now, This is a video that everyone remembers. Here he is. And look at this, folks. This is how
They're
set it
setting
up.
up the shot. And
Look at
everyone remembers this iconic photo where he's there sitting sadly.
Oh, it made every news. This is why I pulled this clip, because it highlights how they set it up, how this kid's actions don't merit somebody that looks like they've just been bombed.
This.
He sits in an empty, pristine, modern ambulance.
Now watch this. He's touching allegedly an open wound and not seeming to care.
Like, oh, what is this stuff?
Yeah, oh, I have an open wound from an explosion, but it doesn't seem to hurt me much. And then boom, every news agency.
Yeah, 400 newspapers, the exact same story. Assad and Russia kill children. They have to be stopped.
So there's one example of how this stuff works. Yeah, there's CNN. They're going to run with it all day. MSNBC. There's one example.
Hey, man, that one made me cry, too. That was a sad photo. They did, that was a...
Of course, and who knows if, I think that's Kate Boldan, I think is...
Okay, so the reason I brought that up is because we don't know. Syria is such a war-torn country.
Right.
And I have listened to people who've gone in underground. It's very interesting why people don't go there. I listened to a council of people who went into Syria and they say, no, we want Assad as our leader. That the rebels are worse. The rebels are, they are ISIS, okay? And so you've got three groups which are supposedly, right? You supposedly have ISIS. You supposedly have the moderate rebels, right? And then you have Assad, the big bad Assad. I'm not saying that he's a good dude.
No,
right?
no.
What I'm saying is that, here's the thing. We might need a hands-off approach. When the whole world is on and zeroes in on something.
Are you going to play the Rand Paul thing?
Yeah, I question it. And right now, there is a conference that was yesterday and today. The Brussels conference. And listen, I don't trust the EU and I don't trust anything going on down in Brussels, okay? Supporting the future of Syria in the region. The European Union will host, and this was to be hosted, it hosted.
On the 4th and the 5th.
The Brussels Conference on Supporting the Future of Syria and the Region, co-chaired with the United Nations and the governments of Germany, Kuwait, Norway, Qatar. Do you know how many human rights violations Qatar has? And the United Kingdom. The conference, which will be held at ministerial level, will bring together over 70 countries to discuss what's going on in Syria. It just boggles my mind. It just boggles my mind. The donors pledged today $9.7 billion to help support the future of the war-torn Syria in the UN-backed conference. When those kind of numbers are being thrown around, you have to question it, you guys.
And can you play the play the Rand Paul thing? Because I'm
Sure.
going to steal his punchline if you don't.
Sure.
That's what I keep wanting to go to.
Sure. Here we are.
Let's listen to what Rand has to say, because I don't want to steal his
Chemical
punchline.
attack from the air. It looks like it came from the Assad government, killing amongst them women and children. We're seeing these horrible scenes right now.
We don't know for sure. At the UN Council, they said we don't know for sure that it was an airstrike.
Now, foaming at the mouth, eyes burnt out, as ugly as it gets. The rebel, everyone condemns that action, but Donald Trump taking some heat as President of the United States for not arming the rebels like Senator McCain wants him to, and saying getting Assad out is a goal and objective. Where do you stand?
I think when you see those images, you cannot be not affected. I mean, just grotesque and so emotional, the images. But it's important to know who did that, and once you know who did it, they should be condemned. But I think it's also important to note that on the rebel side that McCain wants to support are radical Islamists who hate America and hate Israel. And I don't want to support people who hate our country. I don't want to support people who say when they're done with Assad, they're going to attack Israel and not ISIS. So it's a complicated situation, and it may well be a war that has no friends in it. And that makes it a difficult decision to watch. But I think also we have actually allowed the situation. By pushing Assad back and being part of that, we allowed a vacuum to let ISIS fill that, and that's been a mistake.
Absolutely, and the red line that was ignored, the Russians filled it, crossed it, and now we have to deal with them too. Senator Rand Paul, busy day, busy week. Thanks so much.
So there was supposedly this red line that Obama drew and said that chemical weapons was that red line. Well, they crossed that red line, supposedly, okay? And he didn't do anything. And so what Rand Paul said was that allowed ISIS to rush in. There's a lot of talk about this red line, and I want to take you to what Trump has to say about the red line being crossed. Now, I personally believe that this is, here's the thing, someone used, if this is real, then someone is a maniac.
Yes.
A group of people had to do this. It wasn't one person. Somebody is a maniac. If they really did target these children, if they really did do this,
right,
then somebody is a maniac. Now, I am more inclined to believe that ISIS, who go around raping 400 women, and doing all these things, they use children as shields
all the time.
I am more inclined to believe that because Assad was given a footing in the world thanks to Donald Trump, that the moderate rebels aren't so moderate, and that we all know that ISIS is capable of lining people on a beach and slicing their heads off.
Right.
They have no compassion. Their souls are empty, right? And so it would seem that they would do. That is my opinion. Now, we don't know, but this is what Donald Trump has to say, and this would get Donald Trump into a war, and McCain and they call them the neocons, Hillary Clinton, they want Assad out. Our government and the global government, they are into regime change. It's what they do when you don't, at high power, you feel like you have so much power, and so I feel like Donald Trump is being led astray, but that is my
response. One of the things I think you've noticed about me is militarily, I don't like to say where I'm going and what I'm doing. I'm not saying I'm doing anything one way or the other, but I'm certainly not going to be telling you.
After meeting with King Abdullah of Jordan, today in the Rose Garden, the president drew his own red line on Syria, expressing horror about the chemical attack that left women and children dead.
When you kill innocent children, innocent babies, little babies, with a chemical gas that is so lethal, people were shocked to hear what gas it was. That crosses many, many lines, beyond the red line, many, many lines.
The primary focus of Trump's Middle East policy, defeating ISIS, while laying the blame for other foreign policy quandaries, from Syria to nuclear threats, at the feet of former President Obama. Even as he played the blame game today, Trump acknowledged that now he's the one in charge.
I now have responsibility, and I will have that responsibility and carry it very proudly. I will tell you that. It is now my responsibility. It was a great opportunity missed.
Today, congressional leaders on both sides of the aisle pointed to Syria as Trump's first true foreign policy test. Already, some say he's falling short.
What he's done.
They look too happy. They look too happy. These people look too happy. Do you see that woman's face on the left there?
What he's done
Sorry.
Ready, some say he's falling short.
It's gonna happen.
I know. With Syria is emblematic of what he always does. Instead of a policy, instead of action, there's just blame. Blame doesn't solve the problem.
We don't trust Schumer.
Nobody trusts Schumer.
Republican Senator Marco Rubio even suggesting the Trump administration emboldened Assad by signaling it wouldn't seek to overthrow the Syrian leader.
It's my belief that if you're Bashar al-Assad and you read that it is no longer a priority of the United States to have you removed from power, I believe that that is an incentive to act with impunity.
Today, Trump offered no criticism of Russia's support for Assad, saying only that his view of Assad was evolving.
My attitude toward Syria and Assad has changed very much.
But the biggest meeting of the week comes tomorrow, when Trump sits down with the Chinese president.
I was just going to there's a lot to this. Now, Marco Rubio and John McCain and Paul Ryan, the deep state, I'm going to call them the deep state because they're stuck into, they're the swamp, right? They were on a list of being paid by Soros. There were 6 or 7. We covered that.
Right.
Republicans who were on a Soros list. Now,
and it wasn't very much money, but you always know if they're going to admit to, let's say, $5 grand or whatever, you know it's more than that.
It's very interesting when you have Marco Rubio and John McCain agreeing on the same thing. It's hard for us to believe that these people are voted in and that they truly are trying to maneuver chess pieces in the world, but they are. And there are people above them, the whole New World Order, the globalists, they have blackmail on these people. They own, so when you see people who you know, maybe you know them personally, like Thomas Massey, and to a lesser extent, I don't know Rand Paul, and I'm sure he's got some stuff, but when he speaks, I know he's speaking more as a regular person, more as an American. He thinks straight.
You can see it in their eyes that they are bought off. You can just see it.
Rubio speaking there, and
they're like robots.
Rubio, I researched him when we had
during the campaign.
Yeah, and he has been really, he's been bought off too. Okay, there's a lot of stuff that went on in Florida where he was at, and a lot of shady deals there. And I was like, dude, this guy is not a good guy. I mean, every once in a while he might say something that is good, but he's a shady guy. He's definitely a shady guy. This is a really sad thing, and it's really hard to pull yourself back for just a minute, but I want to take you to RT, because in our coverage we have to be magnanimous and see from every side. I do not trust a thing John McCain says, and so if he's coming out, well, we'll just hear what he has to say really quick here.
So I'm sure they're encouraged to know that the United States is withdrawing and seeking some kind of new arrangement with the Russians, and it is another disgraceful chapter in American history, and it was predictable.
So, Senator, what do you want to see President Trump do?
I wanted to hear him say, we're going to arm the Free Syrian Army. We are going to dedicate ourselves to the removal of Bashar Assad. We're going to have the Russians pay a price for their engagement. The Iranians and Hezbollah are also heavily involved. All players here are going to have to pay a penalty, and the United States of America.
Russia. There's a big thing here, guys. I really believe that Syria is a poor pawn in a globalist agenda. And when I hear John McCain speak, I know he is speaking, he's like this weird puppet behind the guy, like Soros speaking, here's what you're going to say today. This is what Satan whispers in his ear, okay? So it is not beyond the realm of their capability to arm insurgents or to create, false flags and to let people know what was going to happen ahead of time. I mean, like, it is not beyond the realm of their capabilities.
Everybody was so upset that they're always claiming Russia influenced the American elections, and this is a big deal. They didn't, but if they had, are you trying to tell me that is way worse than us as a government, or the UN or the EU or the globalists trying to go in and literally change a regime? We have decided that we don't like you in power in your country, and we are just going to go and change it and do what we want to do, because we as the world can do that, because we have the manpower, we have the muscle, we have the weapons, we have everything that we can, to make this happen. And I wanted to go back to Rand Paul, where he said, this might be a war where there are no friends. Guess what, guys? Sometimes it is okay just to stay out of it. There is stuff going on in Syria. There is stuff going on with Assad. Listen, they have to figure it out on their own. We do not need to go in there.
But it's a money-making scheme. I mean, why is the whole world meeting together on Syria? Right. Why is there billions of dollars? Okay, we recognize that there is a war going on, but you know what? There's wars going on in Africa. Are we going into Africa to do all kinds of stuff? There's genocides happening
everywhere.
Everywhere. I mean, go to South America. I mean, there is something very strategic about Syria. Right. Okay. Ron Paul on his Liberty show, he says the same thing, kind of the same thing that we're saying. It's too timed. It's too perfect. It doesn't make sense. I mean, and Russia just had this horrible thing, and our hearts were supposed to go to Russia. Not anymore.
Exactly.
And we're gonna bring you a man. You can see the pain in his face. You can see, I mean,
we're going to bring you an update on Russia.
Exactly.
In a little bit, but we need to finish up this story, and then you guys can come back.
news because the UN High Representative for Disarmament Affairs has said that the means of the attack in Syria's Idlib province cannot be confirmed. And that's despite earlier claims that a chemical strike had been carried out by Syrian jets.
He just said it cannot be confirmed that it was Syrian jets.
Airstrike.
Reports have stated that the attack was carried out through an airstrike on a residential area. However, the means of delivery of the alleged attack cannot be definitely confirmed at this stage.
This next video claims to show the aftermath of the strike, although we cannot independently verify its authenticity. The incident in question is said to have taken place in Idlib province, that's in the north of the country. Activist groups who have links to militants claim that at least 69 people were killed. Let's cross live to New York now, and our correspondent Caleb Maupin, who's been closely following the emergency UN Security Council meeting. Caleb, just take us through what happened.
All right. Well, you would think that if there was no confirmation of how this attack was carried out or any details about it, that it wouldn't be the time yet to bring it to the Security Council and present resolutions around it. But if you thought that, you would be wrong. It seems that different representatives were taking to the floor and giving very heated words and heated allegations in response to the unproven and unconfirmed claims about this chemical weapons attack. Let's first take a listen to what Rycroft, the envoy representing the United Kingdom, had to say in his words, which were rather heated. Let's take a listen.
On the 28th of February, we could have sent a clear message that day, a clear signal that there would be consequences for using these horrific weapons. But after Russia and China vetoed, it seems that the only message sent to Assad was one of encouragement. And yesterday, we saw the consequences of those vetoes.
Now, that was Rycroft essentially accusing Russia of encouraging President Assad to use chemical weapons, even though there has not been any investigation or any confirmation about these allegations that are floating around. Rather heated words. Now, the representative of the Russian...
One thing I wanted to bring up to you guys is that in 2014, John Kerry said that we have gotten rid of every chemical weapon in Syria. It's over. It's completed. We've got them all out.
Either that or they've had 2.5 years, roughly, to recoup.
Federation. Now, he took to the floor at the UN Security Council, and he said that according to Russia's assessment, what took place was an airstrike against an arms depot. Let's take a listen to what he said took place.
You better give an account of what the UK does in terms of regulating the situation in Syria. And you ask questions from Russia and China. Do you have some kind of responsibility? No. And it's all come from an obsession about regime change. Let's talk about the genesis of the problem. The dividing line in history of toxic chemicals use in Syria and then full toxic warfare was so-called red lines initiated by the previous US administration, and the crossing of which would lead to military intervention in the Syrian conflict. This decision was a starting point for the next provocations from terror and extremist organizations, with the further use of chemical weapons. They wanted to discredit Damascus officials and give them a cause to use military might against a sovereign state.
The meeting moved toward its conclusion. Nikki Haley, representing the United States, took to the floor and threatened unilateral action.
I will now add this. When the United Nations consistently fails in its duty to act collectively, there are times in the life of states that we are compelled to take our own action. For the sake of the victims, I hope the rest of the Council is finally willing to do the same.
That's a pretty bold statement from her.
Now, when previous administrations talked about unilateral action, this generally was an indication that the U.S. was considering a military attack. Now, at this point, it's not clear if that's what Haley and the new Trump administration have in mind when they use this kind of language, but the words are certainly serious.
They sounded very serious.
Yeah, it certainly sounds serious. Many thanks, Artist Caleb Maupin.
So what you have here is kind of a way to have a war, and we know that the globalists love war. I feel
big money for them.
My personal feeling is that Nikki Haley got sucked in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we want to go to war with Syria. I don't think we want to go to war with Russia. I don't think we want this to happen.
Here's the thing. I know that her heart is bleeding, and she's yelling at the council, and you know, when you guys don't act, you know, we'll have to act on our own and all this stuff. Like, I get that. I get where she's coming from, but I still have to go back to, there are so many other problems in this world that are going on right now. And the fact that we're not addressing those, and the focus is so shifted so fervently on just this one thing, the hammering of take Assad out, and John McCain and the Clintons and the Obama administration, they all want this. It causes me to have to say pause. It doesn't cause me to say support Assad. No, but I am going to say that sometimes you just got to let nature take its course. If you're an evolutionist, you know what I'm saying?
The CIA helped do the overthrow in Iran, and we see how that went.
Right.
Okay? We now have Iran completely with Sharia law. I mean, they are a danger where they weren't that same kind of danger, and there was a regime change there.
Right.
We had the Arab Spring in Egypt, and we've heard, actually, I heard from the Egypt leader. He sounds like a reasonable guy. But what I hear from the women there in Egypt, they're saying it's not safe to go outside. The police are now threatened, and you've got this tension, and you have this unrest in the Middle East. And my personal opinion is because they don't have Jesus.
Well,
they need Jesus.
Yes.
The reason the West is more civilized and there's not a lot of beheadings and chemical warfare is because we are based on Judeo-Christian values. And when you don't have Jesus and Judeo-Christian values, treat your neighbor as you would yourself, then you do go crazy. Okay? Right. And we can end it on that. The Middle East needs Jesus. They kicked all the Christians out. They kicked all the Jews out. You don't have Judeo-Christian values. You have Islamic values, and Islamic values are not human rights.
And you know what else they are? They are constant war. Right. This is what they do. This is what they have done for thousands, literally, for thousands of years, okay? And especially since Muhammad created Islam, it's just gotten worse and worse and worse.
They're fighting each other all the time, all over the place.
We can't step in every time a Muslim nation fights another Muslim nation. Right. We just can't do it.
Or the people within them are throwing them off, but then, like, Egypt didn't get any better. Egypt overthrew its democratically elected leader.
It reminds me of what's going on in Haiti. We went in there and we messed everything up down there. And then when they cry out and ask for help, raise your hands, not going to do anything because, you know what? The Clintons messed it up, and then Trump didn't do anything to fix it. And so this is one of those situations where Resistance Chicks is standing on the side that A, it either didn't happen, or B, they did it on purpose, and the timing is too perfect for it to have been Assad. The meeting was there, everything was set up. Trump had just said to Assad, we might work together.
As a leader, why would you? He's not that big of a country to take on the entire world, so why would he do this?
And the final, to me, the final nail in the coffin, which this will segue, and maybe we can go ahead and do this segment next, is the fact that we just saw this horrific event happen in Russia, and our hearts should go out to Russia like they did for Paris, like they did for London, and they didn't. And immediately, not only is your heart not allowed to go out for Russia, but you have to be squashed, and then you have to hate Russia again because Russia is saying, you know what, Assad needs help, and we're not saying to support Assad once again, but I'm just saying there's too much going on for this to have been just coincidental.
It's not a conspiracy theory if it's the truth.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks.
Send your comments. Nobody knows right now.
Yeah, we want to hear what your opinion is, what your facts are, what information you have. Go ahead and leave them in the comments. Send them to us in personal messages so that we can know what you're thinking as well. We may read them if they're valid. And so that's the end, and we'll be back in a minute.
Cold, all alone, no place for home, every day, so afraid, but you go